Alright. Alright, this is a video for Control Wizard build. I'm going to go over basically everything, how I play my guy. Start off with the character sheet. Obviously you want to be focusing on int and charisma for obvious reasons. Gear, basically went with not a lot of power, but a lot of crit chance, power, armor pen. It's kind of the way that I went. If you look at my stuff, that's basically how it went. Obviously I'm running the dusk set, running 3 pieces for the bonus. The third set bonus kind of only gets you that movement speed and stronghold, so it's not really that big of a deal. But a 2-piece dusk set is really nice for the. I think you get like power and stuff if you're in a party. Yeah, 2 pieces of the set. When in a party, get some hit points, some power, defense. Pretty good. As you can see, my artifacts. Crit strike, armor pen, combat advantage, crit strike, pin, action point gain. I kind of went a little heavy with the action point gain. I can cast up to 3 dailies in about a minute if I'm rolling really good. So that's why I kind of went pretty hard with action point gain. Also, I started doing lifesteal for obvious reasons. I don't like relying fully on a healer to heal me, especially if the tank is getting beat up. I'm using a Valendra set. I don't have all 3 pieces. Obviously, I'm missing a shard. Some people said use the Osmoth set. I don't agree with that, because if you look at the 3-piece set, on a crit strike on your at will, you'll do another basic attack for free. The way that I play my Control Wizard, he's basically all encounter based, so I really rarely use my at-wills except for the proc spell twisting to get a rapid cooldown of my encounters. Marines, these are from Jewel Crafting that I made. That's why they're pretty good with the double slots. So like I said, basically you're looking for some power, crit strike, some recovery's good, so you can get your encounters and stuff back pretty quick. Here's my stats kind of unbuffed right now, which is pretty good. You see it kind of fluctuating because of my bonding stones and stuff for my companion. If you go down here, crit chance, my goal was to get 60% minimum. That's really good. Crit severity, you want to get crit severity. That's just going to give you more damage. Resistance ignored, anywhere from 50 to 60% resistance ignored is really good, especially late game. You're going to notice your damage drops off if you don't have enough armor pen. Action point gain, for me that's pretty good. And now, like, other than my artifacts for the action point gain, like the Book of the Dead gives me 600. If you look on my jewelry pieces, you can see it's reinforced with action point gain kits. It's on the neck, the 2 rings, and the belt, so that's another 400. My reinforcement kits for my armor pieces is all crit strike majors to plus 200 crit strike. For gems, utility slots, I run one Dragon Horde. I run one Phase Blessing for refinement, and that's what the Dragon Horde does. And I also I run Radiant Enchantments on a couple pieces, a little more power, Azures for the crit strike. What else? What do I run for defense? I think I'm using some stuff for lifesteal. Yeah, I'm running some darks for some lifesteal. I believe I got a couple brutals. Yeah, or savage, I'm sorry. I got some savage on defense to give me a little extra lifesteal and some hit points. Those are really good. My in-game result is to have all my defense slots with savages. That's going to be a while. I mean, the enchantments are pretty much the thing. For my weapon enchant, there's really only two enchants that I'm interested in. One's not even in the PlayStation 4 currently, and that's the Dread enchantment. Until that comes out, I'm running Fade Touched, which is pretty good. You siphon 10% of your target's damage, so you basically give them like a 10% debuff, well, if it's a greater. And then I get 10% buff for damage. It lasts about 10 seconds, and I can only hit proc once every 20 seconds. So that's pretty good. For my armor, I started off using Soulforge early game, because I was pretty squishy. Late game, I'm running a Transcendent Negation, which, you know, some people are like, what do you need, you know, armor? Control Wizard. Well, in my eyes, a Control Wizard should be up there with the tank. So you're going to be in the shit. And this helps out because you get a bonus to healing, coming healing, you get a bonus to recovery, and it can stack up to 10 times at Transcendent level. Not including the 3% increase that you also get to damage resistance. So that's pretty good. That'll make you pretty tanky. Let's see here. For powers, basically my spell mastery, I start the fight off with Conduit of Ice. Always start off with that. You can look at your own build to see what the spell mastery, what it does. So I start off with Conduit of Ice. Depending on how far I am, I'll teleport in, and then I'll hit Icy Terrain, Sudden Storm after, and then if I don't have a daily, Steal Time. If I have a daily, I'll hit, depending on if it's single target or groups. If it's single target, I'll hit Icy Knife, then Steal Time. If it's a group, I'm gonna dump Press of Force, then Steal Time. That's basically it in a nutshell. I use the Press of Force over Singularity because the Press of Force doesn't have a limit on how many adds it can do damage to. Singularity, I believe, caps out at 6. I could be wrong on that number, but regardless, it has a cap. A Press of Force doesn't. So that's the reason why I use a Press of Force. Now when I go into boss fights, depending on what kind of boss fight, like if I'm going to do Orcus, for example, I'll switch my stuff out some. So if I'm going to do an Orcus fight, I'm probably going to run Shield, which is really good for PvP too. My spell mastery will probably still be Conduit of Ice, just because it does a lot of damage. It's like a dot, so to speak. And then I will use, I might use Ray of Enfeeblement, which is really good for debuffing bosses, Icy Rays, and Disintegrate. Now, I usually, depending on the boss fight and how it's going, I may or may not even use Ray of Enfeeblement. I may just use Icy Rays, Disintegrate, Conduit of Ice, and Shield. Just depends on the boss fight and what my mood is. Obviously I'm Spellstorm. I didn't do Master of Flame for obvious reasons. did Dragonborn because of the bonus feats, obviously for the Dragonborn. Now here's my feats. I got kind of a hybrid build going on. If you're a control wizard and you use this perk right here, Fight On, and or Learn Spellcaster, you wasted your feat points. These two perks are broken and do not work. I've tested it. I've done research, and other people have said they're trap feeds or they're just broken or whatever terminology they want to use. They don't work. They're fucked. So I started off the game using these because it was, they were just like, hey, it's good. I switched that. Got 3 points in the controlling action, 3 in the weapon mastery, put 3 in the toughness, got 3 in Wizard's Wrath, 3 in blighting power, 2 points into this prestigion whatever thing. It's kind of like an overall stat increase. It's pretty good. And then 3 in the focused wizardry. Now, if you're a low level, like low item level, this build may or may not be good for you. I like the focused wizardry because I do so much damage that I can take the hit on my damage reduction from my AoEs. So that way, on specific boss fights or single targets, I can do 30% more damage. Now, if you look at focused wizardry and you look at some of the stuff that I have, and I do bonus damage with AoE and stuff like that, I only actually lose like, I think it's 3 to 4% damage. So going over here into the middle, I got 5 in Malevolent Surge, 5 in the Snap Freeze, 5 in the Elemental Reinforcement, 5 in the Spell Twisting. Now, Spell Twisting is where you're going to get your encounter cooldown. So that's why I use my at-wills. So I go into the fight, I do Conduit of Ice, hit my Icy Terrain, Spell Storm, or Sudden Storm, whatever it's called, and then Steel Time. And then I'll immediately go ahead and just do my basic attack at will. And I usually maybe get 3 to 4 shots in, and then Spell Twisting has done its job, and I start cycling back through my stuff. And that's really it. And then I put 5 points in Elemental Empowerment, 1 and 2 Assailant Force, and then for the Oppressor, I put 5 in the Bitter Cold, 5 in the Chilling Control, and then 5 in the Icy Veins. Basically, adds like anything that can be frozen, stays frozen, for the most part. This build's really good. I do good damage. I'm able to control the adds. My companion loadout is Air Elemental. If you look at the active bonus, increase damage against targets not at full health by 5%. Each additional active Archon increases this bonus by 0.5. So 5.5% once they're not at full health. Good, because I got the Fire Archon too. I use this, whatever she's called, because of the critical severity. That's just more damage. Got the Yeti, in case there's a bad tank or the tank needs help. Got the Yeti for that. The only companions that I actually summon ever is Fire Archon and Yeti. It's the only ones that I actually summon. Now, you don't have to make all these legendary. I messed up one night. The only companion that you should make legendary is the one that you're going to have summoned at your side. If it's not going to be at your side, you don't need to go any higher other than epic quality. I got the Siege Master because of the 4% increased damage. It's just a win-win. When we're on a stronghold, guild stronghold, I get a bonus 8%. That's really good. And then this is the guy I run around with summon, Fire Archon. And the reason I was testing the Air Archon compared to the Fire Archon. The Air Archon just dies too much because he's a melee. But the Fire Archon seems to stay up a lot longer because he's ranged. And I noticed that the bonding stones will proc a little bit better because his fire damage is a DOT, the dot. So that's the reason why I've been running with the fire Archon. And of course, I'm sure you already know, increase damage against targets with less than 50% hit points by 7%. That's really good. For mounts, I'm running 2K crit strike for my equip power. And then my stable, this is what I got going on right now. Now if you're running augmentation, obviously you're not going to run with Protector's Camaraderie. You can run with something else. I'm running Magistrate's Patience, which is really good. Every time I crit strike, your target gains Magistrate's Consideration. Enemies affected by that take psychic damage equal to 10% of my power over 4 seconds. It's just more damage. And every time I crit strike, well, I'm crit striking all day, it feels like. I got Shepherd's Devotion. Every time I use a daily, I receive a buff. The way my dailies pop up now, I'm always getting buffs. I don't know if the buff stacks or if you can only have one at a time. I don't know the answer to that, but it's really good. So I get 5% of my power in 15 seconds, and I get the bonus of defense, deflect, and stuff. It's really good. Protector's Camaraderie, obviously for my companion, so I get some extra power and defense for 10 seconds. I got Vampire's Craven, so that way when I do lifesteal, I get a heal over time in addition to whatever the lifesteal did, which is really good. And to me, the staple of anybody's stable should be Wanderer's Fortune, so that way you can get those refinement points. In the beginning, I wasn't running a crit strike. I bought the Warg, Armored Warg, because he gives 1,000 a crit strike and 1,000 a armor pen, and that really helped me out until I was able to get enough armor pen to where I could wean myself off of that and go back to the crit strike. Early game, I was running 2K power, like when I was low level, like below 2,500 item level, I was running the 2K power until I got up in item level and stat wise. Now I'm not too worried about the power because I'm at 15K, like unbuffed, and if you get into a group with like a cleric, you're going to get power from them. I'm going to get power from my companion, so I just stuck with the crit strike. And then boons are pretty easy. I stayed on the bottom here for Sharandar. I got Elvish Fury for the end. For Dreadring, I took the bottom, top because of the lifesteal. Regeneration is just a pointless fucking stat. And then I did bottom, and then Rampaging Madness. I haven't messed with Icewind yet. And then for Underdark, the first 3 are bottom. And then I went top for the last one, just to reduce some control effects, because this one regains stamina. I'm not really too worried about that of my control wizard. And then I took Abyssal Strikes to gain 10% damage against demons. It's pretty good. For Tyranny of Dragons, I'm not finished yet. I'm at 1 of 3 on the end, but I did the first 3 are bottoms, and then I did top. And for the first point, I did Dragon's Fury. Haven't fully decided if I'm going to try to fill that or go with Dragon's Thirst. But I don't have any Guild Stronghold stuff. For Maze Engine, I did the first 2 top. Probably do Action Point 3% faster, and I don't know what I'll do for the end yet. And then Elemental Evil, all 3 are top. And then for the last one, I took Wall of Wind, so that way I can get a little, if I take damage, I can heal up to 24,000 hit points, which is really good, and it boosts my recovery. I kind of like that. I was thinking about the crit strike one. I had that in the beginning, but then later on I switched because my crit's so high anyway. I really don't need it. The recovery though, recovery is kind of nice. So that's why I went with that. Either one of those would be fine though. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. That's all I got.